Hello and welcome to another Modern Toy Fair Top 10. I am Mr. Modern Toy Fair, and today I'm going to be going over our top 10 Mafex figures for 2022. That's right, I'm going over my personal top 10 Mafex figures of this year. So let me know in the comments below what your top 10 is so we can compare the notes and see how much we got the same and how much we differed. But let's jump right into it with number 10, which is Classic Iron Man. So I'm not real big into the classic versions of characters. This one mostly made it because it was nice to get some diversity for a change, at least in the sense of like something other than Spider-Man and X-Men. So we finally are getting into the Avengers. We've seen a prototype for Captain America, we've seen pre-orders for Thor, and now we have the classic Iron Man in hand. The proton cannon, absolutely incredible. I do wish the figure could hold it a little easier. You can get him to hold it without the extra stand, but it is a pain in the ass. But overall, it's still a really good figure, and even for someone who's not big into the classic style characters, it is a nice addition to the collection. Moving on to number 9, though. Number 9 is one that just barely came out before the end of the year. This one, I'm not gonna lie, I mostly got just because I want to use him for other things, not because of what he is. But it is one of the movie figures. It is the T-800 Terminator figure that just got released this month. And he looks great. He works as either the Terminator, if you want to keep him on your show for that, or if you want him to be a generic thug, or I've even seen people get custom heads made to make him into the Red Hood. He has a lot of possibilities, and he fits in with all these other characters they've created. So I'm not gonna lie, I fall into one of those other two characters, but overall, the figure's great, the sculpt, the way they captured Arnold's likeness, the accessories are great, especially in a time where a lot of our figures aren't coming with weapons because, well, specifically guns, because of, restrictions through like DC, for instance. But it is still a great figure, and I'm definitely glad that I made sure to pre-order it. And I may have also pre-ordered the newest one they just announced, just because of the same reasons. Moving on to number 8, though. This is one I didn't expect to like as much as I did, just because I'm not huge into the Nightfall story, aside from, obviously the iconic moment of Bane breaking Batman's back. But the Azrael Batman figure is fantastic. The colors they use, the fact that the metallic blue like really, really works here. You've got just the design of the character. It really feels like most of their figures, it's leaping off the page. Even the accessories, like you have the little like attachment for the wrist gauntlet where it's shooting out the batarangs. They really did kill it. I'm really happy with how this figure turned out. And now, unfortunately, I think it's going to convince me to go just as deep into the Nightfall line that they're doing, rather than just being like, I want Bane. That's what happens when you buy figures you didn't expect to like, or even expect to want. It just kind of gets its hooks in you, and suddenly now you're invested into a line that you really didn't want to be. Moving on to number 7, though, we're moving on to the Marvel side of things again. This time we're going to X-Men with Jean Grey. I was super excited because with these toy lines, due to, the fact that sometimes female figures don't sell as well, or at least they used to not, it's hard to flesh out your teams because a lot of these companies don't want to make female figures if they don't think it's going to sell well. And I get that, but at the same time, you need to have the representation of all of these characters. And Jean is a very big part of the X-Men, and they did a great job of capturing that Jim Lee 90s Jean Grey. I did have to go through, and luckily someone pointed it out, because there were some, like, the little thing, like pouches on her side of her legs. In some cases are blue, some they're just yellow, so, like, that was, I had to figure out, like, if that was accurate, if that was a mess up on Mafex's part. But I loved the hair, the head sculpt, the energy effects with, like, the, like, pinkish, like, bubbly stuff for her telekinesis. They really killed it, and I was so excited when she showed up. And I can't wait for Storm, and I really hope next year that we get a Rogue. whether it's announced or even hopefully comes out, like maybe this year, time next year, we'll be talking about, instead of like, oh, Terminator came in at the end of the year, nope, it'll be Rogue. That'd be fantastic. Moving on to number 6, though. This one kind of leaves the MCU and, well, I guess just Marvel, because I haven't really done an MCU, and DC area again, and we're going to the TV with The Boys, Billy Butcher. Oh man, I love The Boys. It's such a good show, and I was so excited for these to come out, and they killed it. They nailed Carl Urban's likeness on this figure. He comes with easily the best accessories an action figure ever came with, and that is solely because he has the laser eye baby, which to have that in toy form is incredible. Like, oh my god, I can't. I can't. It's just so good. Plus you get the crowbar, the cattle prod, the sniper rifle, and his coat is soft goods. I love how this figure turned out. Don't be wrong, Homelander was great too, but there were some things they could have added to spice, him up a little bit more, where I feel like Billy Butcher's where you get all of the good stuff. Like, you get everything that epitomizes who Billy Butcher is in that figure. So that's why he made it this far onto the list. Moving on to number 5, though, and that puts us halfway through the list. Ironically, if you go and watch my Marvel Legends one, there's some similarities here, because my number 5 is the Symbiote Spider-Man. And he honestly would have been higher on the list had it not been for another Spidey that came out, but we'll get to that here in a minute. I love the symbiote suit. I think it's Spider-Man's coolest costume. I love the lore behind it. I love the fact that, was introduced Venom to us. I am really glad that they actually went and sketched out or etched out the lines for the emblem instead of it just being painted on. Yeah, that kind of also makes it so if there's any mishaps of paint, it's easier to notice, but it just kind of adds to it instead of it just being, splashed of paint on. But yeah, it looks great. A lot of people up until recently were calling it their definitive Spider-Man figure, which I feel like happens every time a new Spidey comes out. It's basically just become a meme. But I definitely put him as my second favorite Spider-Man figure that I have, only because of a different one that will be coming up here soon. Moving on to number 4, though. This one I hold near and dear to my heart. I'm a huge fan of The Dark Knight Returns, and one of my favorite scenes in that is the fight between Batman and Superman. And we have armored Batman. This figure, they absolutely nailed the color scheme, the likeness. It looks like it came from the books. The accessories were great. I do wish we would have gotten the Sonic cannon. Unfortunately, DC's really kind of tied everyone's hands with this whole guns ban, even though it doesn't look like a gun. But it's nice to have him, and luckily he can hold the Mattel version. So if you have that figure or you want to hunt it down, I'm pretty sure it's not that expensive because it's a Mattel figure. It's adds some wash to it, and it fits in great. I love The Dark Knight Returns, and no matter what they release from that line, except for those cover variants where it's the all blacked out Batman and Superman, I don't need those. But give me Mutant Leader, give me Alfred, give me Green Arrow, give me Commissioner Gordon, give me Two-Face. I will buy all of them. I love The Dark Knight Returns. I love Armored Batman, and I'm so happy to have a really good Armored Batman figure in my collection. This gets us down to our top 3, though. So number 3 is another one that just kind of squeezed right in before the end of the year, and that is Cyborg Superman. Wow, they killed it again. I say that a lot this time, and it is a little biased because Mafex is my main line, so a lot of times, unless if they really shit the bed, the figures I am always just super impressed by. The sculpt on him that goes between the regular Superman body to the cyborg parts just looks great. I love just the fact that a lot of these companies will try to find reuse and do things nowadays, but Mafex, almost everything feels like a retooling, a brand new sculpt. You very, very rarely are getting the same figure twice unless it's just a repaint. For instance, the original 75 Spider-Man and the comic painted Spider-Man, and eventually the classic Spider-Man. Those are obviously just repaints, but they're the same character, versus it being like, oh, well, it's Superman with some robot parts, so let's just, kind of half-ass it. No, they went all in, and he turned out great. And yes, I cannot wait to flesh out the Return of Superman line. Give me Eradicator, give me Superboy, give me more mullet Superman. I am all for it. Moving on to number 2, though, and this is one that I ironically just mentioned. This is classic Spider-Man. So I loved the 75 Spider-Man, the one that had like the metallic blue and the darker red. It wasn't perfect, but it was good enough for me. And the second they announced this one, I was like, well, hit the road, Jack. I sold him to basically fund my pre-orders of the classic Spider-Man. And while they did fumble it a little bit and it felt a little rushed because there were some paint issues with the webs where they went a little too heavy in some spots for the black lines, the figure looks incredible. The colors, that bright blue and that bright red, just pop. He looks like he jumped out of the page. It's absolutely incredible. If you haven't seen it yet, I have a review and a Let's Pose of it here on the channel. Go ahead and check those out. But he honestly almost was number 1, but I couldn't do it because my number 1 pick is the Return of Superman solar suit, and this figure was so amazing, and I love the black and silver suit already. And honestly, I was half expecting them just to take the Hush Batman, maybe paint the silver part on the suit, and like maybe retool some parts, but no, they made a brand new sculpt, including like the emblem is actually like embossed on his chest. He's got the mullet. He's slightly bigger than the Hush line, which is weird to me. Why they would do that, because you think you'd want all your figures in the same line, but realistically, if he's going to be story specific, it's not the end of the world. I would like to have the mullet Superman head on a red and blue body, so hopefully we'll get that here soon. But this figure, he came with the jet boots, or you could have the normal shoe, like plain like black with a little bit of silver for the lower legs. He came with multiple heads, of course, multiple hands, all the good stuff. Even the boots had blaster effects, so he really was kind of a standout for me, because I feel like we don't get the black and silver solar suit for Superman very often, despite the fact that I feel like a lot of people like it. I mean, clearly look at all the outrage over the fact that Warner Brothers tried not to use it during the Justice League movie, even though Zack Snyder was going to use it. So to finally get that, and the last time we got it and it was a good figure, was probably Mattel. And now we have it in a higher end line where he can pose more. He can, has multiple heads and expressions and swappable parts. Like, he really is a fantastic figure. He's another one that if you haven't seen him and want to see a closer look, check out on the channel under my reviews. I have a review of him as well. But yeah, Solar Suit Superman is my figure of the year for Mafex. But make sure to let me know in the comments below, what is your top 10 Mafex figures of the year? I know I didn't have any of the reissues on my list. I didn't have any of the MCU figures or the DCU figures on my list. So I guarantee there's going to be some differences. But let me know in the comments below what yours are. I'm very curious to see what everyone liked and disliked this year. Also, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and want more toy-related content. As usual, we will have the reviews on Mondays. We have the Let's Pose videos where I show you how to pose the figures like I do in the photos at the end of the reviews on Tuesdays. We have the weekly live stream on Wednesdays, and we have the podcast where me, Jarmar, and Nate talk about anything from what's going on in the toy world to weird stuff like a Smash or Pass, or can me and Jarmar name Motu characters that we've never seen before, stuff like that. So it's always a good time. And of course, follow us Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Modern Toy Fair. But that's gonna be it for this episode. Make sure to check us out this Friday for our Festivus special. We're gonna go over the 3 of our favorite figures of the year. Each of us are making a top 10 list of all the different brands that we collect. So it's not going to be specific like this one. It's going to be our top 10 figures of the year. So make sure to check that out, but hopefully we'll see you next week. Same toy time, same Toy Fair channel. Thank you for watching.